Hello and welcome. Today, we're jumping right into the mind of one of the most fascinating personality types out there, the INTP. We're going to break down what makes them tick, how they handle relationships, and how they can really shine, using some great insights from foundational research on the type. All right, let's get into it. You know this image, right? The brilliant, but maybe a little distracted thinker, totally lost in their own world of ideas. It's a stereotype for sure, but there's a reason it sticks. It perfectly captures their core mission in life, to understand the world through pure, logical frameworks and to see all the amazing possibilities. So, to really get what makes the thinker tick, we've got to look under the hood at their cognitive functions. This is basically the wiring, the internal software that shapes how they see and process, well, everything. Okay, so at the very core of the INTP is their number one function, introverted thinking, or T. Think of it as their main operating system. Everything they see, hear, and experience gets run through this internal logic filter. They're constantly building this huge mental map of how the world works. And for them, that map has to be super precise, totally consistent, and have zero contradiction. But where do they get all the data to build that map? Well, that's where their number two function comes in, extroverted intuition, or NE. This is their idea collector. It's constantly scanning the outside world, not for boring facts, but for patterns, connections, and possibilities. It's the part of them that's always asking, yeah, but what if? And how could we make this even better? This slide just lays it out perfectly. You've got introverted thinking as the captain of the ship, with extroverted intuition as its first mate. But look all the way down at the bottom. Extroverted feeling. This is their weakest, least developed function. And what that means is that dealing with other people's emotions and social harmony can feel like trying to navigate a ship in a storm. It's just not their natural element, and we're going to see why that's so important in a bit. All right, let's move on and see how this all plays out in real life. What's it actually like inside that constantly buzzing, theory-making mind of an INTP? So what you're seeing here is that powerful combo of logic and intuition in action. Because their inner logic demands consistency, they become these relentless seekers of truth. And because their intuition is always seeing new possibilities, they're way more interested in complex theories than, doing chores. This is why they live so much inside their own heads. They're busy building these incredible systems and ideas. It might make them seem a little distant, but really they're just... And this is such a key point to understand. It's not just about being smart for the sake of it. For many INTPs, it's a deep-seated sense of duty. They see a messy, complicated problem out in the world, and their mind just instinctively wants to untangle it and create a clear, logical explanation. Almost like it's their job to help the rest of us understand things better. So what happens when this super internal person has to connect with the outside world, especially when it comes to relationships? Well, it can be a really interesting and sometimes tricky mix. This chart just says it all, doesn't it? The good stuff is amazing. Their love is so pure and loyal with no games. They're super laid back and don't freak out about conflict. But the weaknesses, they all come from that same place, that weak, extroverted feeling function. It's like they're just not naturally tuned into other people's emotional frequencies, and they often struggle to figure out how to broadcast their own feelings too. And this emotional disconnect leads us straight to the INTP's biggest potential pitfall. It's that moment when their greatest strength, their incredible logic, can actually become their biggest weakness. Okay, this is the crucial part. When an INTP is stressed out or unhealthy, that dominant logic goes into hyperdrive. It stops being a tool to understand the world and becomes more like a fortress. They'll start rejecting any piece of information, any evidence at all, that doesn't fit into the logical model they've already built, even if that evidence is staring them right in the face. This source material gives us this perfect and kind of painful example. An INTP was shown a pile of Christmas gifts that he had accidentally left behind. But because that fact didn't line up with his internal self-image as a smart, competent person who doesn't forget things, he just flat out denied it was true. He dismissed the physical evidence right in front of him because his internal logic just couldn't process it. That's the blind spot in action. But listen, this isn't a dead end at all. There is a very clear path for the INTP to grow and unlock their incredible potential. Let's take a look at how they can do it. So the secret isn't for them to try and become someone they're not. It's all about strengthening what's already their number two skill, that extroverted intuition. This just means actively opening up their minds, seeking out new information and experiences, and trying to see the world objectively, just to understand it, instead of immediately trying to make it fit into their existing logic puzzle. And here we have some real actionable steps. Notice how rules 3 and 4, talk about your thoughts and listen to everything, are really two sides of the same coin. They're all about forcing that amazing inner world to connect with the outer world. When an INTP actually says their complex thoughts out loud, they're firing up that extroverted intuition, opening themselves up to new ideas instead of just letting their internal logic run the whole show. And the advice keeps going, right to the heart of it. Get out of your comfort zone is basically growth 101 for an INTP. And rule number 8, identify and express your feelings. Man, that's the hard work. That's about developing that weak feeling function, and it's absolutely essential for building the strong relationships they need to be happy. It's all about finding that balance between their incredible inner world and the real one outside. And that really brings us to the final critical question, doesn't it? For the INTP, whose mind can create these unbelievable breakthroughs and see the world in ways no one else can, this is the ultimate challenge. How do you build a bridge from your brilliant inner world to the rest of us? Because really, the greatest ideas in the world are meant to be shared.